Reliance talks.
Yeah, crossfire.
Take one. Take one.
Today we're going to be discussing answers to frequently asked questions about our product that we get every day. So let's get started. Can I connect my water heater, my central air conditioner, an electric oven, or an electric clothes dryer to a Reliance Controls transfer switch? What do you think, guys?
Well, kind of depends.
Okay, so the transfer switch is being used as an emergency power source. I think a clothes dryer kind of doesn't really constitute an emergency.
Yeah.
So
Some of these things, it's really dependent on what kind of power does it require. An electric water heater, our transfer switches, they have a 30 amp max rating on and that's one double pole circuit.
that's on the ProTran too.
And that's on the ProTran too. If those appliances fall within that, absolutely you can. So just for, an example, let's say you have a 30 amp air conditioner breaker in your main panel. That could go in the A and B position on the ProTran too.
Right.
Now, the water heater, maybe on a 20 amp,
Right.
also can be connected in the ProTran too.
It all depends on the size of what kind of power it's going to be using. If it's a really large air conditioner unit, no way. It's not going to work. It's usually 40 or 50 amps. Not going to work.
And it goes along with the size of your generator too. It's quite possible your generator wouldn't even be able to run it if, say, you have a 30 amp generator and that air conditioner is on a 50 amp breaker.
Right. Exactly. Like a electric range, one burner is only drawing maybe 10 amps, but the entire stove is rated for 50 amps. And you have to remember that the toggle switches can't handle higher amperage any higher amperage than 30 amps. So you have to kind of got a limit to what you can and what you can't do. And you got to be kind of reasonable as far as, well, I've only got 30 amps or I only got a 50 amp generator. You have to kind of figure it out a little bit, and that's why we're here. That's why you can call us.
But Reliance has a whole another line of products in the panel links
That's right.
that would probably be more appropriate for this type of.
Right. If you're looking at powering a lot of heavier duty type appliances, there is a solution, and it would be our Panel Link series. And essentially what that is it's a transfer switch, but without the individual toggles. And the way that it would be connected is more like a sub panel in your home, so an extra panel next to your existing home panel.
Would probably need to be installed by a qualified electrician, definitely, unless the consumer is actually comfortable doing it. It's a lot of wiring. You're moving circuits from your main panel into the panel link.
But it does give you that capability of having some larger circuits in having the capability of running them off the generator, where the transfer switch wouldn't allow it.
But you're talking a bigger generator.
You could. A 50 amp generator, you're still going to have to pick and choose when you're using a panel link. If you don't have a big enough generator. We can have it set up for 30 amp, 50, 60, 100 amps for a generator on a panel link. But when you're talking about running circuits, again, you're going to be limited to what your generator can produce.
Can I use a generator whose wattage exceeds the wattage on the transfer switch?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the difference between continuous and surge watts. Every generator is going to have both ratings that are advertised. We are only concerned about the continuous watts, and continuous or running watts.
Generators usually have a couple of different outlets too. You may have a 50 amp generator that's producing 12,500 watts, which is 50 amps. You can't use that 12,500 amps on a 30 amp transfer switch. You have to use a 50 amp transfer switch. But if it's got a 30 amp outlet, like just a 30 amp outlet, which is going to be regulated to 7,500 watts, you can definitely use it. So a larger generator can be used, but you have to be smart with what outlet you're using.
It's all dependent on the outlets on the generator.
It depends on the outlets, because those generator outlets usually have a circuit protection on them So a 30 amp breaker will trip if you try to exceed that power, and it's just not going to happen. So it'll trip before it does.
How many double pole 240 volt circuits are provided on each transfer switch?
Well, on a ProTran 2 6 circuit, you have one double pole 240 circuit provided. However, you can gang together the other circuits and have a total of 3 double pole 240 circuits in there.
In the ProTran 2, we use interchangeable breakers. So if you had the need for more 240 volt circuits, pick up a double pole breaker to change 2 of the singles to doubles.
On the ProTran 1, you have push to reset breakers. So the 2 breakers, or the 2 switches and breakers in the middle, are going to be your double pole. On the ProTran 1 10 circuit, all the circuits are in 2 rows, and each 2 circuits next to each other are a double pole circuit. So you can have up to 5 in a ProTran 1 10 circuit, but only 1 in the ProTran 1 6 circuit.
What is the maximum load on each side of ProTran transfer switches?
Well, I'll take the 30 amp transfer switches. A 120/240 30 amp transfer switch is going to be 3,750 watts for each side. And on the ProTran 2, that is split by every other circuit. So if you're looking to balance a load, it would be the letters A, C, and E on one side and B, D, and F on the other side, and each one has 3,750 watts.
And you always try to balance the load between the sides.
Absolutely. You want to add up all your loads that you're going to have on the transfer switch, and you want to divvy them up to where the ones on A, C, and E are roughly equal to what's on B, D, and F.
Now I know why he took that, but I'll do the 10 circuit one, which is A, C, D, well, okay, whatever. But every other circuit on a 10 circuit transfer switch will do 7,500 watts. You're not going to have that limitation to the 30 amps. So you get 7,500 watts per leg, per side, and it's every other circuit. So when you're balancing the loads, you'll see you want to get those meters to kind of equal out. You want to keep them pretty balanced, is what they're saying, balancing it by keeping those meters, the meter wires are where the indicators are, so that they're kind of in the same position or close to. It's never going to be perfect, but you can get close. You can get pretty close if you balance your loads.
And that's to help the generator run cleaner.
Right. Yeah, it keeps your generator actually get a longer life out of it because you balanced it so that the voltage regulator doesn't get taxed on one side more than the other. The meters, speaking of the meters though, we have dual indication on meters. The meters, some of them only have 1 band, but we have 2 bands on the meters. One is for the smaller 20 amp transfer switches, which is an interchangeable meter that can be used either on the 20 or the 30 amp.
The scale's showing you the same number.
Right, same number though. The scale shows you the same number. And it's approximately 500 watts per section on that meter.
Which power inlet box do I use with each Reliance transfer switch?
Well, it depends on what configuration that you need. We have them all for 15, 20, 30 amp, 120 volt only, 50 amp straight blade is also available, and they come in 3 different forms. So the first one, the most common one, is just our regular PB. This is a 30 amp power inlet box, and you see this is where you plug in here in the front. And this is just the metallic version of our outdoor inlet box. Also available is another metallic inlet box with breaker protection, and that would be the PR series.
Yeah, we got the PBN, which is designed by Reliance Controls. It's a nice little 3-piece, easily install, 100 cubic inches inlet box. This is the PBN 50. It has the 50 amp on the bottom of the transfer switch. On the bottom of the box itself. So it's mounted on the wall like this. And so you got to make sure you leave yourself a little bit of room underneath to get that plug in there. But this is a beautiful box. The conduit connections are push out, and they are very nicely designed, and it's a beautiful weatherproof box. And it's a polycarbonate type box, so it's going to be weather resistant too.
Next question, are individual branch circuit breakers included with panel link transfer panels?
The only breakers that are included with them would be the generator breaker and the utility breaker, and those are interlocked with our patented interlock device.
And for a list of breakers that will fit in it, you would just reference the panel itself.
So pretty much any 1-inch UL listed breaker should fit in a transfer panel.
Very good. Customer service is extremely important to us. It's one of the trademarks of our company. And call us anytime at 800-634-6155. Check us out on RelianceControls.com and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Reliance Controls, electrical innovation since 1909.